All right. So, Debbie, I'm going to go with you on this one here. Where and when did you make time to study? And I'm actually going to pull a question here from Brian on GoToWebinar here, who asked, he'd be curious how Debbie studied with kids. He's saying he also has small children and has a hard time finding the time and the energy to get the studying done. So, can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, my kids usually go to bed between 7 and 8, so I would study in the evenings from 7 or 8 o'clock to 10 or 11. And before I started studying, this was the time I had set aside for painting. So it was already a very rigorously held schedule that I had blocked out for painting time. So it was pretty easy to switch that time from painting time to studying time. I kind of had to completely give up painting for a period because it was too hard to switch back and forth between studying and painting. I always would paint instead of studying, so I had to just give it up. So it wasn't an option for me.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Give up those hobbies. How about you, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to have to sacrifice some hobbies, especially if you want to get the exams done in a reasonable amount of time. I typically, because I was trying to keep with the 4 weeks on most of the exams, would study for about 5 days a week, but not more than probably 2 hours for most of those days, with the exception of course, on Saturdays when we'd meet up for the Black Spectacles videos. But I'm a firm believer in repetition, so I would always bring flashcards with me to work, and then on my lunch break, I found that was an easy 1 hour right there, just to go through flashcards, just for general knowledge, and then at home, I might spend an hour or two going through more in-depth, focused study material.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like how I studied when I did this. It's amazing. You add up the 20 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes during lunch, 30 minutes on your commute. It does all add up.
Yeah. Especially just keeping the information constantly in your head, and you're always thinking about it, so you don't have the tendency to forget, oh, what did I study last Tuesday? It's always in your mind. And I just to expand on that a bit too, I think the more resources that you have access to, even if it's free sample questions online, just utilize everything you can just to see how NCARB is testing your decision-making process. And also each question that you come across is just one more avenue for research.
Awesome. Jonathan, how about yourself?
Yeah, so after work, I would make time to where I would go to the gym for an hour and a half or so, and then after that, I would find my local Starbucks and basically close it down. And that was 5 days a week, about 2.5, 3 hours a day. And then Saturday and Sunday, because obviously there's no, or a lesser work commitment, those were my actual long days. So I would spend about 5, 6, or sometimes up into 8 hours at Starbucks on Saturday and Sunday, especially for those exams like structures and building systems. And also for those harder exams too, I would take my lunch break and use that hour as well to go through the exam material as well.
Yeah, that's one thing I think it's maybe worth noting is that it also is, if you guys are all working while you're doing this, it's important that the folks who you work with, they know that you're studying, because they'll give you a little bit of space, they'll give you a little bit of leniency, perhaps. And so, studying during work is important, I think, to take that time, and also just to make it known that I'm studying for my exams, just so everyone knows,
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Debbie, I just have to say.
You can ask questions too.
Yeah, Debbie, I just have to say on GoToWebinar, everyone's asking about your story. I think about 7 or 8 people here have just said that they also have kids and they're having a hard time finding motivation after a long break, or just finding time because of the way children take over your life. Do you want to add anything else to that? There's a lot of questions and comments about that.
Once I decided I definitely wanted to get it done and made it a priority, I think it was easier. When they were very little, I didn't even try to pursue it. So I just at one point decided, well, I definitely want to do this. I'd actually had dreams about not finishing school. Like somehow I had never gotten my high school diploma, and I'd skipped on to college, and then I didn't finish college for some reason. And since I started studying for the exams, I haven't had that dream anymore, and it was all about not having finished something. So I just had to decide I definitely want to get this done, and then set aside, make that time to do it. And it is harder to work around the schedule of kids who have evening activities that you have to do, and weekends are busy. But I just gave myself enough time to get each test studied for before I did it, which is why I didn't usually schedule them until a week or two ahead of time. I didn't want to get myself into a situation where I wasn't prepared when I took the test. I mean, taking the test, I never felt like I could have been prepared because they always shocked me with how hard they were. But I just, made it a priority during that time. And then I usually did take a few weeks off kind of in between just to relax with the kids a little bit more, but not too much because then I'd get out of the habit.
Generally, how old were your kids when you decided to do this? They're 3 or 4, or they're 8 or 9?
My kids are 4, 6, and 8.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, good. Well, I think that should give some folks some ideas. I think you set yourself some reasonable expectations. You gave yourself some breaks in between, and you just decided you were going to do it. And I have to say, Lonnie just noted in our comments here that they had the same dream, that they did not get their master's degree. So you're not alone.